Are you ready to learn about D&D Bologna? We're going to climb the lofty, lofty peaks of D&D's popularity and branding as we examine D&D Bologna and how high the D&D brand can climb. I think it's useful for fans of D&D to understand how different Dungeons & Dragons is from the rest of the RPG hobby. Sure, there are core books for lots of RPGs and minis and various things that all make it all seem the same. But when it comes to the financial footprint of D&D and how it resonates in the larger population of the world, D&D is just at a completely different level. And you can see that in a number of ways. You can see it financially if you look at how much money is brought in by D&D. You can look at one of their books and see how a 5th edition book sells compared to one of the most amazing Kickstarters out there. If you look at a really great Kickstarter, you can look at one of D&D's books. D&D's books just blow that success away. D&D operates on an entirely different footprint, but also strategically, it's not competing with other RPGs, whereas other RPGs are generally trying to compete with D&D, right? They're trying to get your attention as a gamer and say, hey, try me, don't just play D&D. D&D isn't competing with those other RPGs. It won that battle from day one, pretty much. What D&D is trying to compete with is entertainment. What it really wants is more people coming into the hobby and playing, and hopefully doing things that are more lucrative, whatever that might be. So because of how different D&D is, it cares about branding in a very different way than other RPGs might. And that's what gets us to the subject of D&D Bologna. Because when we look at, we'll get to the history of it, but when we look at how you ended up with D&D Bologna, it's only possible because of a series of events that happened for Dungeons & Dragons. So follow me along here. D&D is this small game, right? Though its print run is pretty successful and it's really capturing people's imagination, it's only but so big. Until they satanic panic. This puts D&D on everybody's radar screen. And it's not always positive, okay? But it is overall causing attention that it never could have had otherwise. And initially, that is super, super positive to hear it from the folks that worked at the company that was then TSR. So D&D is gathering headlines. It's being looked at. And now comes something else, which is the D&D cartoon. And this fights from the other side, where it makes it look really positive, something that kids like. And it's got toys and action figures and things like that. This starts getting D&D's popularity even higher. And D&D starts to have things that you have when you're a successful brand. Like, for example, there was a Big Wheels car, that you could run around the street and drive around as a kid that was D&D themed. And there were birthday plates and napkins that you could buy as a D&D birthday set. And there was D&D Bologna. So here you have it, the height of D&D branding. Wait a minute. So wrong image, though that shows you how far we've come. That is an actual old advertisement for D&D. No, here is D&D branded Bologna. And for many years, this was actually a rumor. I had heard somebody, I think at a convention or something like that, who had been TSR staff, talking about how we even think we had branded lunch meat. And I thought this was amazing. And I would say this to people and they would think I was nuts. And I was like, no, I heard this from a staffer. And eventually John Peterson, the amazing historian he is, goes out and finds proof that in fact, this existed. It was in Spain and the branding was related to the D&D cartoon being a big hit in Spain, which is amazing, right? I mean, how many RPGs have that? Just D&D. But this branding comes out where you have a deal with Oscar Mayer, an actual license with the company, to have in everyday stores in Spain branded bologna and other choice cuts. Sorry to all the vegans out there, you're saving our planet. Thank you. But you have D&D Bologna. And what's amazing about this, right, is that if you think of kind of typical branding, right? Yes, it's great that Nike makes shoes, but they are a brand company, right? They fill all kinds of things that you might wear or have around the house, posters, whatever, with the Nike swoosh. And what's important is the brand as much as it is the actual shoe itself. That's how they achieve success. Take a look at Marvel, right? When we think about those properties, they are no longer comic books. It's about the brand of it, the symbolic meaning behind all of these figures that you may see, because you might decide to buy a cereal box because it has some character on it that you like. You might pick up t-shirts to represent the brand. You might do all kinds of things that aren't related to the comic book or even to the movies and those other newer expressions. So the brand ends up being bigger than the actual product itself, the origin of it. And for D&D, what that can mean, and for the RPG hobby, it means that when you have something like branded lunch meat, your random relative who has no real knowledge about gaming is in the grocery store shopping away, and they come upon this. And they go to buy their regular lunch meat, and it has this branding on it. This happens all the time with big things like Pokemon or Marvel, that you just want to buy waffles, but it's got this brand on it, right? And what that does is tell you that this brand is enormous and that it's everywhere and that it's worth talking about. So that you go back home, the non-gamer, and you mention to your kid, hey, I'm making sandwiches. Do you know about this thing? Oh yeah, I've seen the cartoon, right? And that just enters the consciousness of everyone. The same way that we talk about D&D being big because of Stranger Things or other vehicles bringing it out there so that everybody is aware about it and talking about it, even if they don't game. So recognizing this importance, Sean Merwin and I have been talking over the past years about D&D Bologna as a sort of high watermark, right? Back when D&D Bologna is out there, you have this amazing penetration into everyday market spaces that we don't have today, right? Or that we didn't have for a really long time. There were really not many deals like that in 4th edition days. So, for example, from 4th edition, I've got this fun friend. So this is Jones Soda, and it has a dwarven warlord on the cover, and the D&D logo, and it's called Dwarven Draught, and it talks about dwarves and what they know on the back. A friend of mine got that for me, and I liked it so much I kept it. But what you end up wondering is this D&D Bologna? No, it's not, because this is available for gamers. It's something that's a specialty product. When you look at 4th edition and even in 5th edition, there are a number of things that seem to feel like D&D Bologna. For example, 5th edition has seen D&D waffle irons so that you can make a waffle with a D20 imprint, or coffee, or candy, or candles, or whiskey, or any number of things like that. And those are all fun for gamers, but they're not in grocery stores, right? You're not randomly going down the Target aisle and going, oh, look, a D20 waffle iron in general, right? There are a few things like some D20 wrapping paper has made it out there this season and so on. Enjoy that. I'm looking forward to running into it. But it's very different than this Oscar Mayer everyday lunch meat scenario that becomes the high watermark. We came really close in 5th edition, right? So what did we have? We had a Nerds Candy as a deal. It was short time, but in everyday stores, in candy aisles, just a little more limited than the lunch meat everybody, other than smart vegans, will buy. You could go out and see, oh, look, I'm going to get Nerds Candy. Hey, it's got D&D branded stuff. And even better, the D&D campaign that came with this had a series of adventures written by Kat Kruger, awesome designer, friend, hi Kat, who put together all of these neat experiences designed specifically for a new player. So if you bought the candy, you could see on the back that there was this opportunity to buy to go get free adventures for every so many of these that you got. You had to upload a receipt. It was a little wonky, but if you put up your receipt, you showed that you bought it, you can get adventure 1, then adventure 2, and eventually all of them. And each adventure featured a Nerds Candy character as a D&D character, and you could play the adventure with them. And you didn't need a whole full party to play, though you could if you wanted to at the end. But you could just play through this experience and just get a feel for what D&D might be like. And that is cool. We had another really close one. There were going to be D&D Pop-Tarts. And these featured Tasha on the cover, at least in one mock-up we saw. And the deal seemed done, and there were going to be Pop-Tarts in stores. That would have been D&D Bologna. But it didn't quite get there because apparently it seems the project was canceled. There are some obvious, really big hits too. I mean, the D&D movie, right? That's not quite the same kind of branding thing, but I mean, talk about consciousness. Having a Super Bowl ad about the D&D movie is enormous, and that was huge. No question about it. It's not in the grocery store aisle, but it is that kind of level. And if somebody wants to argue that that was the high watermark, I've got no problem with it. The D&D movie was great for D&D, and it continues to do well on all of the streaming platforms, meaning that you have a lot of people running into D&D and seeing what that story is that the movie portrays and the areas of the world and the classes and all of that. That's amazing, right? And the D&D movie, well, it came with fun stuff like, the first people who go in, they get a popcorn bucket shaped like a D20. I mean, that's pretty choice. And if you're going to eat your D&D Bologna, I mean, it's from the 80s, so, don't, except, I will. But check this out. So in Singapore, you could drink out of this mug shaped like a castle with a black dragon around it, and it's also a dice tower. Right? That's some branding from the D&D movie. Obviously, not a lot of people found this. It wasn't in store shelves. It was just something you could get when you got the movie. Those are fun expressions. I don't think it's quite D&D Bologna, but it's pretty darn cool. Oh, yeah, and here's, my nerd's candy, because I'm going to hold on to this as long as possible, and maybe my kids' can eat it and think that I was nuts, which I am. So the natural question is, have we reached that peak of D&D Bologna other than, say, the D&D movie? Have we done that? Do we have some product out there that is in everyday world selling the world on D&D? And yes, in the US and the UK, we had D&D stamps. These things, and I'll show you better, you can see them over here on the side. These are amazing, like really, really great art. And there's a version for the US, official D&D stamps in the US and the UK. That's your new high watermark, and I'll tell you why. So first of all, they're amazing, right? Actual official US stamps in the US, and a set as well in the UK. And they are just incredible. Like, the imprint of the Queen alone next to this stamp is just fabulous. And art by Wayne Reynolds, really cool. Classic art on the US ones. The UK had like a little special booklet that's like a mimic that you can open up with magnetic, and inside are, special versions of the stamps. In the US, things like field notes, right? With stamps from the first day of issue on them, and all amazing in different colors, so you can take notes and do things like that. Like, that's incredible. They had framed prints and posters and all of that. But that's not all, right? Like, that's neat. And yes, gamers probably know to go to the post office web store and get them. But what was amazing is when I went to my post office to mail something, and there was a huge poster greeting every single person that walked into the post office. And on it are the D&D stamps announcing that they're coming, 1 month from then when I walked in. It was, in a month, come get these Dungeons and Dragons 50th anniversary stamps. That's amazing. That's every, how many people walking in day after day into these post offices and seeing this. Not only that, just a couple of weeks ago in the mail, I get this flyer. And it is from the post office in the United States. And it has, that's the red dragon and the warrior fighting the red dragon, D&D as part of what it's got right here on the cover in its stamp and stamp inspired products. And as I paged through, I was amazed that it wasn't just like on the very first page talking about those field notes that I showed you. The entire catalog is almost every single page shows you D&D stuff and all of the products, stamp-related products that you can get for them, right? Bookmarks and a T-shirt, right? Like, this is from the U.S. Post Office. Like, everyday people are getting this flyer, and on one hand, they're thinking about getting the horse's stamp pin with cancellation card or the Protect Sea Turtle stamp pin. And the other side, a D20 T-shirt with the D&D on it and United States Postal Service on it. I mean, that's amazing, right? Collectible pins, framed art with the stamps that comes in a frame right next to Hank Aaron as a baseball commemorative, and Betty Ford. I mean, this is amazing, right? When folks ask me whether D&D Bologna has been bested, yes, by the US stamps. Anything else that wants to rise to this level, this is our new high watermark because you will have to be in more than one country, not just the US, not just the UK, right? And be at this level of everyday people running into it. And again, the reason it matters, the reason I'm even talking about this is because D&D is so big that to reach new people, it must operate on this scale, right? Reach out larger than the RPG hobby, not in your gaming store and beyond that, to where everyday people are running into the brand the way they do with these other entertainment properties. Fortunately, I have with me some D&D Bologna from the 1980s. Let's try it out. Mm. Mm. Yeah. No, it didn't age well. I should have gone vegan.